If you're paying your buddies to remove people's fingernails and teeth, there's no illusion of peril. Do not do this. Hello, ghosts and ghouls. Welcome back to my churchyard. I thought I'd do a cute little Halloween special, and I have got to take the fangs out now. I wore them, but if I am lisping for the rest of this video, I'm going to be getting comments about this in 4 years' time. I will never know peace. I love Halloween. Actually, I think the whole last quarter of the year, like, fucking whips. I hate that there's this whole dichotomy where you're either, like, a Halloween person or, like, a Christmas person. Like, what if I love candy canes and pumpkins? What if I love Santa and Satan? I'm even pretty happy to see Thanksgiving every year. It really helps to keep the energy up post-Halloween and the run-up to Christmas. Like, if the last quarter of the year is a weekend in Vegas, Thanksgiving is the Bloody Mary you have on the second morning that cures your hangover because you're drunk again. Because Bloody Marys are just vodka gazpacho. What I'm saying is I'm not really there for the Thanksgiving, but I'm grateful that some Thanksgiving is available when I need it. I'm literally a minute into the episode and I'm already on a tangent. I love Halloween. I love costume parties and autumn scented candles. I love corn mazes. I love scary movies. And above all, I love the classic American tradition of the haunted house. Not like an actual haunted house haunted by actual ghosts, like the Halloween attraction that you can find in virtually every county in America during the Halloween season. I'm a huge fan of haunts. My earliest memory of one was attending the Wink Haunted Walk in my hometown, which was held in one of our nature centers and sponsored by a local news station. Local actors dressed up as monsters and would hide in the flora and jump out at you as you passed. When I grew up, I even became one of those scare actors, working a couple of seasons at Universal Studios Hollywood Horror Nights event. So I think I have a very interesting perspective on the American haunt, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. But first, I want to talk about something really scary. Traction alopecia. And today's sponsor, MD Hair. So many of you know that for most of this year, I was on tour with a musical. But what you may not know is that those wigs that we wear on stage are terrible for your hair. And putting your hair up in pin curls to go under the wigs night after night is really hard on your hair follicles and can lead to hair loss, especially along your hairline, which is exactly what happened to me. I'm not even going to show you guys the images of it at its worst because honestly, it's too embarrassing, but it got really bad, you guys. I've always had really thick, really strong hair, and experiencing hair loss came as a bit of shock to me. It really can happen to anyone. So when MD Hair contacted me offering to sponsor a video, it was like the easiest yes I've ever said to a sponsorship. Like, I need these products right now. MD Hair had me complete an online quiz and upload a picture of my scalp and determined that I had stage 2 hair loss. So they sent me their customized hair care kit that includes bottles of their Restore shampoo and conditioner, hair serum, hair wellness supplements, and marine collagen. Each product is made with natural medical grade ingredients, and each product works in a different way to help your scalp. To start hair growth, you need to stop hair loss, heal your scalp, and make your hair stronger. And it is possible only with a combination of different products, shampoo, serum, and supplements working both inside and out. Since completing my contract on tour, I've definitely seen some regrowth, and some of that is just down to removing the root cause, no pun intended, of my hair loss. But using products like MD Hair has definitely strengthened my overwhelmed strands and mitigated any additional hair loss or damage. So even if you haven't experienced any hair loss yet, hair supplements and treatments are a really good option just in terms of preventative care. MD Hair is offering my viewers a generous 70% off the first monthly kit with full-size products if you use my link in the description and enter the code HOOTS70 at checkout. Again, that's my tracking link in the description and code HOOTS70 at checkout for 70% off your first month. Customize your hair growth treatment with MD Hair. Thanks to MD Hair for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to see an ad-free version of this and other videos, as well as the videos that I've unlisted, head on over to patreon.com/littlehoot and become a patron. Real talk, I'd prefer to not even have sponsors, but I've experienced a pretty dramatic decline in my income lately, and I'm struggling to pay my rent and student loans each month, so I kind of have to take sponsors. Each new patron is one step closer to having the financial freedom to forgo sponsorships on these videos altogether. And while we're doing calls to action, please like and comment on the video, maybe share it with a friend, because I'm really not anticipating it doing very well. Nobody gives a shit about haunted houses except me. Some videos just have to be for me, you know? But also, I don't want my whole channel getting punished by the algorithm for putting out one Halloween special that no one cared about. Subscribe and ring that bell if you want to see some of my other more popular videos. Despite haunts and Halloween in general being a very North American thing, the grandmother of the American haunted house was a refugee of the French Revolution living in London at the turn of the 19th century. Marie Tussaud, better known as Madame Tussaud. Yeah, those tourist traps in every major city are named after a real person. Marie Tussaud had been a wax modeler in France since the 1770s. She became quite well known for her portraits of celebrities like Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Benjamin Franklin. And in 1780, she was employed as a private art tutor to Madame Elizabeth, sister to King Louis XVI himself. But if there was a bad time to be employed by the royal family of France, it was the 1780s. In 1789, Marie Tussaud was perceived to be a royal sympathizer and arrested by the revolutionaries. Her head was shaved in preparation for the guillotine, but she was released at the last moment due to a supporter she had from within the revolutionary camp, Jean-Marie Collot de Bois. As a free woman, she was employed by the leaders of the revolution to make death masks and full body casts of the revolution's most famous victims, including Marie Antoinette, Louis XVI, and Robespierre. When the Treaty of Amiens was signed in 1802, marking the end of the Revolutionary Wars of France and temporary cooling hostilities between France and Great Britain, Marie Tussaud got the hell out of Dodge and moved to London, where she would live out the rest of her life. That same year, she exhibited some of her work at London's Lyceum Theatre. Her exhibition included what was known as the Separate Room, where she displayed her collection of death masks, as well as models of the guillotine and the Bastille and an Egyptian mummy. When she opened the original Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London in 1835, this Separate Room would become what's now known as the Chamber of Horrors. Visitors to the museum were charged an extra sixpence to see the wax portraits of the decapitated heads of the French monarchy, alongside sculptures of England's most notorious murderers and depictions of torture and executions. And as you can see from this 1849 illustration, business in the chamber was booming. The public loved to be a little creeped out. During the First World War in Europe and America, the traveling fair provided the public a place to seek cheap thrills, safe from the actual horrors of war. One of the earliest commercial haunted houses was a carnival attraction found at a traveling fairground, the Orton and Spooner Ghost House. The Ghost House was, again, originally built in England in 1915 by a carnival producer named Patrick Collins as a gift to his wife, Flora. The attraction, which is still up and running at the Hollycombe Working Steam Museum, is only about the size of a train car and features rocking floors, vibrating walls, and blasts of air as guests pass through it in total darkness. The scares might be tame by today's standards, but the ghost house spawned thousands of imitations, which can still be found at touring fairs to this day. In the 1920s, Le Théâtre du Grand Guignol in Paris peaked in popularity. The theater, which specialized in graphic, naturalistic horror shows, originally opened in 1897, but was most popular during the interwar period, when even celebrities and royalty packed into the theater to watch lowbrow performances with high-effort special effects. Grand Guignol whetted the public's appetite for realistic, believable horror. They avoided the supernatural storylines that dominated the genre in the Victorian period and opted for themes of insanity, murder, and human brutality. This realism, which made them so popular in the 1920s and early 1930s, would eventually become their Achilles heel. The real-world horrors of the Holocaust killed the public's appetite for faux murders. To quote Grand Guignol's last director, Charles Noonan,
"We could never equal book involved. Before the war, everyone felt that what was happening on stage was impossible. Now, we know that these things and worse are possible in reality."
The Grand Guignol officially shuttered in 1962. The modern American haunt had its genesis in the period of the Great Depression. The trick part of trick or treat was a much bigger part of I don't know, society or whatever back then. And little homemade neighborhood haunted house attractions were introduced as a way to distract kids so that they wouldn't destroy everyone's property. Children really were just feral back then. As a sidebar, the reason the classic American haunted house is typically depicted as a Victorian mansion also has its roots in the Great Depression. During the 19th century economic boom known as the Gilded Age, America's nouveau riche built what were essentially the Victorian equivalents of McMansions. These enormous, ostentatious monstrosities fell out of favor after World War I and started being abandoned en masse following the Great Depression. Over the 20th century, these relics of happier days were left to decay, making them the subjects of local ghost stories and eventually the inspiration for 20th century horror filmmakers. In 1960, the Victorians' association with horror was solidified when Alfred Hitchcock gave Norman Bates one in Psycho. The first commercial haunted house to really become a cultural icon was Walt Disney's The Haunted Mansion. The project was plagued with delays, and it ended up being opened 6 years after its originally planned opening date, while the finished exterior of the attraction sat in the park, abandoned, leading to rumors that the attraction was too scary, that it was cursed, that it killed someone during testing. The Haunted Mansion opened in 1969 and was obviously very tame, more spooky and silly than scary. But the illusions used in the attraction were so impressive that the ride became an instant classic and kicked off what essentially became an entire industry of haunted attractions. To quote Lisa Morton, author of Trick or Treat, A History of Halloween,
"What made the Haunted Mansion so successful and influential, however, was not its similarity to haunted houses and dark rides, that is, tawdry carnival haunted houses of the past, but its use of startling new technologies and effects. Ghosts were no longer simply sheets hung in a tree, but were instead actual shimmering, translucent figures that moved, spoke, and sang. A witch wasn't just a rubber-masked figure bent over a fake cauldron, but a completely realistic bodiless head floating in a crystal ball, conducting a complex seance.
Haunts were no longer mom and pop hanging bits of string from the ceiling of the garage and sticking your hands in peeled grapes and telling you their eyeballs. They were turning into a prestige industry where experts in theatrical effects and design were staging elaborate experiences that made you feel like you were stepping into a real-life horror movie. In 1971, Southern California's Knott's Berry Farm started hosting a Halloween event, and in 1972, Jerry Falwell kicked off the annual tradition of Hell Houses, an evangelical version of the Halloween haunt that features people dying from their sins and going to hell. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, haunts started to feature characters from popular horror movies, forever linking the likes of Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights to existing IPs. Today, the haunted house industry is a seasonal and, in some cases, year-round industry that generates nearly $500 million in annual sales. There are many different kinds of haunt, and I love them all. I am biased toward Halloween Horror Nights because I used to go to the Orlando event every year in high school, and I worked at the Hollywood event as an adult, but it really is one of the prestige haunts in my area, along with Knott's Scary Farm. But I am a Halloween event enjoyer, and I even love goofy little haunted hay rides and corn mazes. I love the houses and neighborhoods that go all out, putting up really scary decorations. Like, I don't have to be scared. There just have to be really good vibes. I'm all about atmosphere. It's actually pretty easy to startle me. Like, I sometimes still get a little jump scare from those stupid pop-up masks in the Haunted Mansion. So I'm not particularly impressed by lots of pop-outs, fun though they may be. What really gets me going is theming and attention to detail. I'm also there for a crappy attraction that has no delusions of grandeur, but is just doing its best. Like, I had a great time at Shacktoberfest last year, which was an objectively bad event, just in a way that I thought was funny. I'd love to go to some of the other famous haunts in the country, like 13th Gate and Netherworld. But there is one famous haunt that I have no interest in. Honestly, I have a bit of a bone to pick with this haunt. It's a haunt that used to be right here in Southern California, and I probably could have gone if I was so inclined, until it essentially got run out of the state for being too sadistic. McCamey motherfucking Manor. McCamey Manor is a so-called extreme haunted house in Summertown, Tennessee, and the brainchild of Russ McCamey. Each complete tour of McCamey Manor is purported to last around 10 hours. Any participant, or victim as Russ calls them, who manages to complete the entire tour without using their safe word and tapping out is awarded a grand prize of $20,000. But of course, that has never actually happened because McCamey Manor isn't a super scary haunt. It's a torture facility. Participants are required to sign a 23-page waiver agreeing to potentially having their hair and eyebrows shaved, being drugged, having their fingernails removed, their fingers broken. Torture. Anything and everything can and will be done to you at McCamey Manor except, per the waiver, any sexual or religious transgressions. The waiver even mentions the possible use of very bizarre forms of torture.
64. Participant fully understands and agrees that MK Ultra brackets mind control may be used. 112. Participant agrees that if selected to participate in Houdini's Chinese water torture apparatus, which will include being submerged upside down by your ankles with a straitjacket in a cylinder with live moray eels.
I'd be willing to guess that the cylinder of live moray eels doesn't really exist, but I don't know. If some McCamey Manor superfan has seen it on one of their YouTube videos or one of their Facebook live streams, leave a comment. Oh, yeah. Every visit is live streamed, and every participant agrees to having their visit filmed, often by Russ himself, and uploaded to their official YouTube channel. Presumably, that's how Russ actually monetizes the manor. The cost of entry to McCamey Manor is a suggested donation of one 50-pound bag of dog food. Russ gives some of the donations to his 5 dogs and distributes the rest to Greyhound rescue organizations. I think part of McCamey Manor's allure is Russ McCamey himself. He's kind of a larger-than-life figure, both literally and figuratively. He's about 6'5" and looks like a used car salesman. He's an animal lover, and he never curses. In fact, he even forbids his employees and Manor participants from cursing during tours. And yet, he runs a torture retreat. I think some of the curiosity that drives people to try to complete McCamey Manor is born of Russ's weird folksy charm. Like when someone's quirky, skeevy uncle is saying you can't complete his torture gauntlet, you kind of think, I'll show him. I'm built different. You won't show him, though. Don't do it. McCamey Manor, to me, is not a haunt. Like, I find it annoying and frustrating that it bills itself as an extreme haunted house because there's no actual scares here. The whole point of a haunt is to create the illusion of danger using actors, scenic design, sound, and lighting, creating a sense of fear in people in spite of the fact that their rational mind keeps telling them that they are safe. If you're paying your buddies to remove people's fingernails and teeth without anesthetic, there's no illusion of peril. They're just in actual peril. There's no artistry at work here. This is like saying you've designed an extreme version of Splash Mountain and it's just pushing people over a waterfall. Like, sure, the thrills might be real, but I kind of think you misunderstood the assignment here, Russ. And I don't think McCamey Manor even works as an extreme endurance test. No one is ever going to complete the tour and win the $20,000, and that's by design. To quote Megan Selling in an article for Nashville Scene,
here's the thing. There is no $20,000. There's no Cayman named Ralphie. There's no quicksand-like mud that will swallow you whole. And McCamey will certainly never slather your body in flame-retardant gel and lock you in an incinerator somewhere in Huntsville, Alabama. None of that is real. McCamey knows what will break people, and after stringing them along with some fake blood, gnarly props, and a silly afternoon of wall sits and Elton John songs, he can simply pull out what's needed to shut the show down when he's ready for it to end, which doesn't take long. McCamey says the average time spent at the Summertown McCamey Manor location is just 8 minutes.
So, that sucks. One thing I do appreciate in Russ McCamey's waiver is that it states that McCamey Manor is not a fight club and expressly forbids participants from fighting with the actors. That may seem unfair when the actors are like waterboarding the participants and shit. And yeah, I mean, it kind of is. But also, you would not believe the amount of people who come to haunts for an excuse to assault somebody.
Watch out, bro!
Whoa! That video was from Halloween night at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood. It was down at the Terror Tram attraction, which is where I was working. It was literally the very last night of the season, and they always do these cute little superlative awards on the last night at the beginning of our shifts before the actual event opens. The scare actor who was assaulted in that video had been awarded Scare Actor of the Year down at Tram. Super friendly guy, always on his A game, just loved being there every night and giving people a good show. And I saw him come off set pretty early into the night. I don't even think it was 9 p.m. yet. And he was sobbing. And he had a broken hand. Someone else who'd witnessed it had also come off set crying because it was just so shocking. As scare actors, we are used to getting hit. We are used to getting bumped. We all sustain some injuries over the course of the season, and that's something that we sign up for. But there is a difference between someone who maybe accidentally slaps you when you startle them and someone who comes to an event looking to hurt someone. I don't know if it's because most of us are wearing masks and that makes it easier to dehumanize us, but haunts really have a way of bringing out the violent ones. At any given haunt, 90% of the guests are lovely and wonderful and just there to have a good time. And 10% are a fucking nightmare. And if your event is Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights and they sell out at around 20 to 30,000 tickets each night, that 10% represents a lot of fucking nightmares. Do not do this. First of all, these events take the safety and well-being of their performers pretty seriously, and you will be thrown out and likely banned from returning. You will also be arrested and charged at the performer's discretion. Secondly, we're human beings. We are people. Laborers working for an hourly wage, and most of us are only doing it because we love Halloween and we want you to have a fun experience at the haunt. I have another job at the theme park during daytime hours that pays me better than the Horror Nights position, but I would take the temporary pay cut because I like scaring people, and I like people who like to be scared. Don't touch performers. Don't hit them. Don't sidle up to them like you're gonna fight them, even as a joke. The same season as that video, 2022, I was a chainsaw performer, and people get really weird about saws. If some skinny white guy plans on coming into the park and starting a fight with a performer to show off to his girlfriend, he always chooses the biggest chainsaw performer he can find. And like, I get that it's because he knows the performer at work and like isn't gonna fight back. And I guess like the saw adds a bit more menace or whatever. Like it makes it seem like you have a more dangerous opponent. But we are still people. And we are still holding real chainsaws. They've had their chains removed, but they can still cut you, or the motor can burn you if you reach out and touch one. And if the guests aren't trying to fight a chainsaw, they get like really weird and horny for them. I got humped by a guest that season who also tried to grab my saw to like, I guess, twerk on or something. I don't know. She had her phone out and she was filming herself, and I think she thought she was being funny. Anyway, humping a stranger for the lulz or for internet clout or whatever is still sexual assault, and security and 2 of the other saws chased her down afterwards and removed her. Don't fucking do it. Don't harass and assault people while they are at work. If you wouldn't do it to a barista, why are you doing it to someone in a zombie mask? Okay, rant or PSA or whatever over. In spite of the shitty guests and the repetitive stress injuries, working at a haunt is like so much fun. Partly because it's a seasonal position, you really do feel like you're at camp. The energy is always so high. Most of your coworkers are actors and horror fans, so everyone is really welcoming and chill. You know, when everyone's a weirdo, no one's a weirdo. Well, almost. There's always some actual weirdos, but you only have to tolerate them for a couple of months. There's just something about the fact that everyone is covered in blood and eye black and wearing some unflattering monster costume that really humbles the judgmental part of your brain. Or maybe it's the fraternal spirit of Halloween, just spreading kinship and goodwill to all the freaks. And not to sound like a sadist or whatever, but it really is satisfying when you scare somebody good. It's rewarding and like really funny. One of the best scares is when you drop someone, when they're so terrified that they fall over or drop to the ground. Every time that happens to one of us, we all go off set and high five each other afterwards. Which reminds me of another don't for the guests. I mean, this one isn't as serious as the first one, but don't be that guy who's trying too hard to show how not scared of everything you are. First of all, it's embarrassing. Nothing screams insecurity more than some dude making a big show of being unbothered. Like, we get it. You're a big, brave boy. But you also spent money to be here. Try to enjoy it. If anything, hype yourself up. Freak yourself out before you even go into the event. Try to build up some of that anticipation. Scream more than you need to at scares. Not only will you have more fun, but you'll also make some scare actors' night. When you're a working zombie and it's getting late and you're getting tired, some guest falling on their ass and taking out all their friends with them like bowling pins after one of your scares is really gonna be the thing that gets you to closing time. I hope you all have a happy Halloween, be it scary or not so scary. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this video about haunted houses. Thank you for indulging me. If you're looking for some music to get you into the spirit of the season, I'll drop my Halloween Spotify playlist in the description. I'm very proud of it. It's unhinged. And if you weren't already aware, I've been completing the Nightmare on Film Street podcast's 31-day horror challenge, which gives you 31 horror movie prompts, one for each day of October. I post what I watched each day to my YouTube shorts if you want to follow along. I'll include links to the challenge in the description as well in case you want to complete your own. That's all for the video. See you in the next one. If you made it this far, post some kind of Halloween related emoji in the comments. Okay, thanks. Bye.